They call him the Wolf. A fighter so ferocious that opponents crumble before they even touch the canvas. Khamzat Chimaev isn't just another UFC contender, he's a force of nature. But behind the savage knockouts and ruthless dominance lies a story far more complicated than most fans realize. Because while some call him unstoppable, others believe his career has been hanging by a thread more than once. And now, as he prepares for the biggest fight of his life, one question remains. Will Khamzat Chimaev go down as the UFC's next great champion, or will his story take a shocking turn no one expects? Khamzat was born on May 1st, 1994, in the small Chechen village of Benoyurt. At the time, the region wasn't known for producing athletes, it was known for producing survivors. The First Chechen War had torn the land apart. Bombings, military checkpoints, and gunfire were part of daily life. For a child, it wasn't about dreams of stardom, it was about making it to tomorrow. When he was just 2 years old, tragedy struck. Khamzat fell down a set of concrete stairs, leaving a permanent scar across his lip. That scar became a symbol, a mark he would carry forever, and in many ways, it foreshadowed the battles that would define his life. By the time he was 5, he found wrestling. In Chechnya, sports weren't hobbies, they were survival skills. Wrestling offered discipline, strength, and an escape from the chaos. His raw aggression set him apart, and by his teens, Chimaev was already competing at a national level. But medals didn't protect you from war. Friends were lost, families were displaced, and eventually, Chimaev's own family made a decision that would change everything they had to leave. Khamzat's older brother had already fled to Sweden years earlier, seeking safety. Eventually, the rest of the family followed. For Khamzat, arriving in Sweden at 18 wasn't the start of a dream, it was the start of a new struggle. He didn't speak Swedish, he didn't know the culture, he didn't have money. He and his family lived crammed in small apartments, taking whatever jobs they could find just to survive. Khamzat himself worked in a poultry factory, plucking chickens for long hours before heading to training. But on the wrestling mats, none of that mattered. He dominated local competitions almost immediately. By 2018, he was a 3-time Swedish national wrestling champion, sometimes winning matches without conceding a single point. Coaches started whispering, this wasn't just a good wrestler, this was someone special. And soon, he would discover the sport that would turn him into a worldwide phenomenon: mixed martial arts. In Stockholm, Chimaev walked into the legendary All-Stars Training Center, the home of UFC stars like Alexander Gustafsson. He wasn't a polished MMA fighter yet, he didn't have a background in striking or submissions, but what he did have was raw power, insane cardio, and a mindset that bordered on obsession. Stories quickly spread through the gym. Khamzat trained harder than anyone. If practice ended at 9 p.m., he stayed until midnight. If sparring partners quit, he grabbed new ones and kept going. Teammates joked he lived in the gym, and some said it wasn't really a joke. He tore through amateur competition with 3 dominant wins before turning pro in 2018. Then came Brave Combat Federation in the Middle East, where he smashed opponents with ease. Whether it was striking, wrestling, or grappling, the result was always the same: destruction. It didn't take long for UFC scouts to take notice. But even they couldn't predict how quickly the refugee kid from Chechnya would take over the biggest stage in the world. The 15th of July, 2020, Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. Khamzat Chimaev makes his UFC debut against John Phillips. From the opening seconds, it was clear this wasn't just another newcomer. Chimaev mauled Phillips, landing punches and takedowns at will before choking him out. But what shocked the world wasn't just the dominance, it was what happened next. Just 10 days later, Chimaev begged the UFC for another fight. Most fighters take months to recover. He wanted to fight immediately. Dana White agreed, 25th of July. Rhys McKee, another victim. Chimaev didn't just win, he outlanded McKee 68 to 0-inch strikes, an unheard of stat line. 2 fights, 2 dominant finishes. Less than 2 weeks apart. The hype was building fast, but there was still one question. Could he do it against a veteran? Enter Gerald Meerschaert. The UFC threw him in as a test, expecting experience to slow the wolf down. Instead, Chimaev flattened him with a single punch, 17 seconds, lights out, 3 fights in, 3 flawless finishes. Fans started calling him Khabib 2.0, but Khamzat pushed back. I'm not Khabib, I'm Khamzat. I smash everybody. The hype was real. The world was watching. But no one knew that just months later, everything would nearly fall apart. In December 2020, the UFC scheduled Chimaev to face Leon Edwards in a potential title eliminator. But then came the virus. Chimaev tested positive for COVID-19. At first, fans thought it would be a short delay. Instead, it became a nightmare. He struggled to breathe, his lungs felt heavy, he coughed blood into the sink. At one point, doctors even suggested cancer. Chimaev was devastated. He posted cryptic messages online, hinting at retirement, saying he couldn't fight anymore. Fans panicked. Had the most exciting prospect in years been taken out before reaching his prime? Dana White stepped in, flying him to Las Vegas for treatment. But the recovery wasn't quick. Chimaev disappeared for months, and whispers began, maybe he was done. Maybe the wolf had been caged for good. But in true Chimaev fashion, the comeback was inevitable. The 30th of October, 2021, UFC 267-inch Abu Dhabi. Khamzat Chimaev versus Li Jingliang. From the opening bell, Chimaev sprinted across the cage, lifted Li off his feet, and carried him across the octagon while screaming at Dana White, "I'm the king!" Moments later, he choked Li unconscious without absorbing a single punch. The hype was back. The wolf was hunting again. Then came Gilbert Burns in April 2022. For the first time, Chimaev bled. Burns pushed him to the brink, landing heavy shots and forcing Chimaev into deep waters. But instead of breaking, Chimaev thrived. He dug deep, fought tooth and nail, and walked away with a decision victory. It was the kind of fight that turned doubters into believers. But controversy followed. At UFC 279, scheduled to fight Nate Diaz, Chimaev missed weight by 7.5 pounds. Critics called him reckless. Fans accused him of being unprofessional. The UFC scrambled to reshuffle the card, and though Chimaev still won his fight, his reputation took a hit. For the first time, cracks began to show. Was he truly disciplined enough to be a champion? As if things weren't complicated enough, politics got involved. In 2023, tensions in Sweden reached a boiling point. Public Quran burnings sparked outrage, and for Chimaev, a devout Muslim, it became personal. Rumors swirled about threats and surveillance. Suddenly, Sweden didn't feel like home anymore. Chimaev made a bold choice. He moved to Dubai permanently. In the UAE, he found new training partners, elite facilities, and a community that embraced him. More importantly, he focused on middleweight. No more brutal weight cuts. No more starving his body to make 170. In June 2024, he faced Robert Whittaker, the former middleweight king. Many believed Whittaker's experience and technique would humble the wolf. Instead, Chimaev dominated, locking in a choke that nearly shattered Whittaker's jaw. The message was clear. This wasn't hype, this was reality. And reality was coming for the championship. May 2025. The UFC officially announces it. Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight championship on the 16th of August in Chicago. For fans, it's the fight of the year. For Chimaev, it's the fight of a lifetime. Everything his childhood in Chechnya, his refugee struggle in Sweden, his near death with COVID has led to this. But whispers still circle. Some claim his body hasn't fully recovered from past health scares. Others wonder if his mental toughness can withstand 5 brutal championship rounds. And there are even rumors that if he wins, he might walk away from the sport early, choosing legacy over longevity. No matter what happens, the wolf is standing at the gates of history. From a war-torn village in Chechnya to the bright lights of the UFC, from plucking chickens in a Swedish factory to choking out world champions, from coughing blood in the dark to screaming, "I'm the king" inside the octagon. Khamzat Chimaev's story isn't just about fighting. It's about defiance, about survival, about a man who refused to be broken no matter what stood in his way. On the 16th of August, the world will find out if the wolf becomes the king. But one thing is already certain: whether he wins or loses, Khamzat Chimaev has already left his mark as one of the most unforgettable fighters in UFC history.